Howdy guys, this is Kevin Stoda from the back porch today. I often speak to you from the front porch. This is a story about that man in the shadow. Who's that walking up those growing numbers? This is a story about the failed state, and Mr. Donald Trump is the focus, but the people who put together this failed state article are from Mother Jones, and they are David Gilson and Laura Thompson. Okay, you know, we've been living through one of the most amazingly difficult viruses or plagues to ever hit the world. We're almost in our 6 months of it, and this is about how the president's denial of reality made a dangerous virus even more deadly. We need to read this for the record for future generations to make sure that they understand that we did know. And hopefully by my reading through this, I'll be invigorated and you'll be invigorated to say we need to get tests right now. WHO tests are available. Why don't we just import them if the standards of testing that we're doing now are not up to snuff? The recent reports have shown that a lot of states have bought bad medication because they've been bad medication, bad testing equipment, bad testing options because the Food and Drug Administration has not monitored what's coming into the United States, what's being brought in the United States. They've kind of washed their hands of doing their job, and we are getting bad tests, we're getting no test, and people are waiting 7 or 10 days or longer for tests still, and this is 6 months into the virus. On January 22nd, 2 days after the first confirmed case of COVID-19 in the United States, President Trump breezily declared, "We have it totally under control." Over the next few months, more than 1.4 million Americans would become affected. That's by April. Nearly 100,000 would die and 39 million would lose their jobs by early May. While we don't know what or who or how the months ahead, what kind of things that holds for us, we have already witnessed the devastating consequences of the president's attempt to spin, bluster, and blame his way out of a national emergency that will go down as the greatest scandal of a scandal-plagued presidency. So yesterday I shared with you some of the other scandals the president was involved in, as well as this one. Remember this? This is a comment, "It will all work out well." That's what Donald Trump told us. It will all work out well. January 2017, incoming Trump administration officials. I'm going back 3 years, okay? In January 2017, incoming Trump administration officials met with Obama officials to exercise how to handle the worst influenza pandemic since 1918. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross reportedly dozes off during the meeting. May 2017. Trump proposes slashing billions from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and other public health agencies. Congress does not approve the cuts. June 2017. A CDC-funded study finds that a severe pandemic could quickly deplete the national ventilator stockpile. The CDC knew this in 2017. June. Their own report. May 2018, the National Security Council disbands its Directorate for Global Health Security and Biodefense. Rear Admiral Timothy Zimmer resigns. Senator Elizabeth Warren and Patty Murray request a briefing from the National Security Advisor, John Bolton, on pandemic response. He does not respond. That's all of 2018. Now on to January of 2019. The Department of Health and Human Services begins Crimson Contagion, a series of exercises about a hypothetical influenza pandemic that starts in China. I'm telling you, this is January 2019. Hypothetical influenza pandemic that starts in China. Its final report finds that the medical supply chain in the U.S. is unprepared and the government does not have the funding to fully respond to a severe outbreak. December 31st of 2019. China informs the World Health Organization about a pneumonia outbreak in Wuhan, cause unknown. We'd heard rumors about it though before that. Early January 2020, the novel coronavirus is mentioned in the President's daily intelligence and security briefings. The warnings are reportedly given to Trump throughout January and throughout February. CDC head Dr. Robert Redfield speaks with his Chinese counterpart, who reportedly sobs on the phone call. That's early January. January 18th, while spending a weekend golfing at Mar-a-Lago, Trump receives his first major briefing on the coronavirus from HHS Secretary Alex Azar. The president reportedly wants to discuss lifting a ban on unflavored vaping products instead. January 20th, the CDC confirms the first COVID-19 cases in the United States, a Washington man who returned from Wuhan 5 days earlier. South Korea reports its first case. So there'll be a parallel here between Korea and the United States. January 22nd, asked if his administration is worried about a coronavirus pandemic, Trump says no. We're not at all, and we have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China. Denial from the beginning. January 23rd of 2020, China locks down Wuhan. They should have done it earlier, of course. Trump tweets, China has been working very hard to contain the coronavirus. The United States greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency. It will all work out well, they said. The CDC says it has developed its own test for coronavirus, different from the one shared a week earlier by the WHO. January 27th, Joe Biden publishes an op-ed in USA Today. He says, the possibility of a pandemic is a challenge to Donald Trump, who is unqualified to handle as president this job. To be blunt, I'm concerned that the Trump administration's short-sighted policies have left us unprepared for a dangerous epidemic that will come sooner or later. I'm sure everybody who worked in the Obama administration on creating a pandemic response stood behind Biden on that one. January 28th, Trump holds a rally in New Jersey. He does not mention the coronavirus. Now, notice how often this happens. He holds a rally, he does not mention the coronavirus. January 29th, Trump announces a coronavirus task force headed by Azar. A memo by White House trade advisor Pete Navarro on the same day warns that immediate action is needed to prevent a full-blown pandemic that could kill between 1 million and 2 million Americans. That's what we're on track for right now. Still, 6 months in. The WHO declares the coronavirus a public health emergency of international concern. That's January 30th. At an event in Michigan, Trump says we're working very strongly with China on the coronavirus. That's a new thing that a lot of people are talking about. We think it's going to have a very good ending for it. So that I can assure you. He's just making up things off the top of his head. How can his supporters support a guy like that? January 31, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the top federal infectious disease expert, says there's no doubt that asymptomatic transmission is occurring. That's January 31, 2020. So, asymptomatic transmission is occurring. Now, let's be fair to Trump. There's a lot of idiots who are in office now, and we'll go ahead and cover some of those right now. And now I'll come back to Trump. This is the COVIDiocracy. COVIDiocracy. We've got people like Representative Matt Gaetz, Governor Brian Kemp, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, Governor Ron DeSantis, Senators Kelly Loeffler and Richard Burr, and the Mayor of Las Vegas, Carolyn Goodman. Why? So these are some of the dumbest official responses to the coronavirus crisis outside of the White House. The Trump administration said loyalists showed up on the House floor wearing a gas mask. Who was this? Representative Matt Gaetz, as he voted on Congress's emergency spending bill in early March. Less than a week after pulling this stunt, the Florida Republican went into self-isolation after discovering he'd potentially been exposed to the coronavirus at the Conservative Political Action Conference run by Israel, or supporters thereof. Governor Brian Kemp in April of this year said 3 weeks after Georgia's first COVID-19 death, Kemp reluctantly issued a statewide stay-at-home order. At a press conference in Atlanta, home of the CDC, Kemp claimed he had only recently heard that the virus could be spread by people without symptoms. We didn't know that until the last 24 hours, Kemp said. Remember, warnings came as early as January from the CDC on that. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick of Texas. In March, Texas' number 2 elected official suggested to Fox News host Tucker Carlson that he'd rather die of COVID-19 than see the economy tank. A month later, he doubled down, saying, "There are more important things than living. I don't want to die. Nobody wants to die. But man, we've got to take some risk and get back in the game and get this country back up and running." And now Texas is running right behind Florida on number of coronavirus cases per day right now in the United States. Less than 2 months after the governor said that, or less than 3 months after the lieutenant governor said that. Meanwhile, what else did we hear this spring? Governor Ron DeSantis said after the Florida governor decided not to shut down spring break in Florida, coronavirus cases were tracked as far away as California and Massachusetts. Like Trump, DeSantis has also pushed hydroxychloroquine. He designated World Wrestling Entertainment an essential business and suggested potentially reopening schools in April because I don't think nationwide there's been a single fatality under 25. That wasn't even true then. Meanwhile, other commentators, and for some reason it mostly seem to be Republicans, Senators Kelly Loeffler and Richard Burr, after being briefed by the CDC that 2 Republicans each dumped millions of dollars worth of stock, while publicly saying that the coronavirus wouldn't be that bad. They should be in jail. As the then chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Burr also received a daily coronavirus briefings. He should have known better, right? In May, after the FBI seized his phone, he stepped down from the chair seat. Loeffler has denied any wrongdoing. Well, she should donate all her winnings to me or to the coronavirus mask and PPE fund. Meanwhile, the mayor of Las Vegas wasn't too astute either. Mayor Carolyn Goodman, in a very bizarre interview with CNN's Anderson Cooper in April, the Las Vegas mayor offered up the city's residents as a controlled group to see what would happen if everything opened. She said, "Let's try it. I'd love everything open because I think we've had viruses for years that have been here," she said. When Cooper expressed incredulity, she replied, "You're talking disease. I'm talking life. I'm talking life and living." Yes, Las Vegas opened up recently and they are having a huge spike in coronaviruses. And there's still not enough testing in the country. This is, we're at the end of June, getting ready to go in July. Let me continue where I left off. Remember, Trump was saying that he wasn't concerned about the first states to really get the virus, like California, Washington, New York, because they were run by Democratic governors. Trump keeps saying in February and onward, it's going to disappear. He repeats it over and over again, even as we see everybody else beginning to panic. February 1, Trump spends the weekend golfing at Trump International in West Palm Beach, Florida. But on February 2nd, the White House reveals restricted travel policy for China. The ban does not apply to Americans, however, so nearly 40,000 people entered the United States from China over the next 2 weeks. February 5th, the Senate votes to acquit Trump in his impeachment trial, but on the same day, Senator Chris Murphy tweets, just left the administration briefing on coronavirus. Bottom line, they aren't taking this seriously. February 7th, asked if he thinks China is covering up the coronavirus, Trump says, no, China is working very hard. We're working together. Now contrast that to what he's saying today. February 8th, one day after CDC testing kits reach state and local labs, this is our U.S. test. WHO has already got a test. Most report that they are not working properly. Most, that means the majority. February 10th, at a rally in Manchester, New Hampshire, Trump says, looks like by April, in theory, when it gets a little warmer, the virus will miraculously go away. Has it gone away? February 11th, 2020. The WHO gives the novel coronavirus its official name, COVID-19. Trump holds a rally in El Paso, Texas. He does not mention the coronavirus. Remember, keep America great. February 13th, Trump tells Geraldo Rivera it's a problem in China, has not been spreading very much. In our country, we only have basically 12 cases, and most of those people are recovering, in some cases fully recovered, so it's actually less. February 14th, Trump says we have a very small number of people in the country now, but he goes golfing on the February 15th. On the February 18th, the Diamond Princess cruise ship arrives, and he says, please don't let those people off because I don't want my numbers to go up. Eventually, 700 passengers fall ill. I think that when we get into April, he says on February 19th, in the warmer weather, that has a very negative effect on that and that type of virus. So let's see what happens, but I think it's going to work out. Trump holds a rally in Phoenix. He does not mention the coronavirus again. Trump holds a rally in Colorado on the 20th of February. He does not mention the coronavirus. On 21, Trump holds a rally in 21 of February, right? He does not mention the coronavirus in Las Vegas. February 23, in a memo to Trump, Navarro says $3 billion is needed immediately to fight the virus, including more than $600 million for protective equipment, PPE. February 24th, the White House asked Congress for $1.25 billion in emergency funding. Okay, so that's quite a bit less than $3 billion. The Association of Public Health Laboratories writes the FDA, we are now many weeks into the response with still no diagnostic or surveillance test available outside of the CDC for the vast majority of our member laboratories. Okay, if you let everybody make up their own test at that point, we end up with 100,000 tests. Why don't we just take WHO's test at that point when we were messing up our test? Again, Trump says on the 24th, the same day, the coronavirus is very much under control in the USA. We are in contact with everyone in all relevant countries. CDC and World Health have been working hard and very smart. Stock market's starting to look very good for me. Play-by-play of self. We need this guy out of our office. They should impeach him now for neglect. The stock market on February 25th dips after Nancy Messonnier, director of National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Disease, says the CDC is preparing for a pandemic. Trump reportedly threatens to fire her. Next, on February 26th, Trump puts Vice President Mike Pence in charge of coordinating the White House's coronavirus response. At a press briefing, Trump says we're testing everybody that we need to test, and we're finding very little problem. It's a little like the regular flu that we've had before. It'll go over in a very quick manner, he says. The number of cases within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero. That's a pretty good job we've done. I'll say this, February 26th, that's a pretty good job we've done. It'll be down to zero. The CDC confirms the first instance of community spread of virus in the United States on February 26th. February 27th, Redfield testifies before Congress that the CDC believes that the immediate risk of this new virus to the American public is low. I don't know how he did that. The flatten the curve chart begins to go viral. At a Black History Month event, Trump says it's going to disappear. One day, it's like America, it will disappear. Okay, one day, I don't know how many centuries from now. But anyway, that's very sad because right after that, nearly 40% of the cases of coronavirus were going to black people. Or at least those who were dying and suffering from it. February 28th, at a rally in Charleston, South Carolina, Trump notes that there have been no reported deaths in the United States. Oh, February 12th was the first death. You wonder if the press is in hysteria mode, he says. Now the Democrats are politicizing the coronavirus. Is it a political thing? No. Only if Trump makes it, and he did. You know that, right? Coronavirus, they're politicizing it, and it's a hoax. It's a new hoax. That's what Trump says as he brushes his hair. Look at that. Is it a hoax? No, it's not a hoax. February 29th, health officials in Washington announced the first known coronavirus deaths in the United States. In April, it is found that the first one was on February 6th in California. Confirmed coronavirus cases in South Korea peak. Get this, on February 29th, coronaviruses in South Korea peaked. We're still in our first wave in America, 6 months in. March 2nd, at a White House meeting, Trump presses pharmaceutical CEOs to say a vaccine will be ready in a matter of months. Fauci corrects him, a year to a year and a half, no matter how fast you go, he says. At a rally in Charlotte, North Carolina that evening, Trump says drug companies are going to have vaccines, I think, relatively soon, and they're going to have something that makes you better, and that's going to be actually taking place even sooner. And the United States is right now ranked by far #1 in the world for preparedness. How many of you think the U.S. was prepared? How many think they're prepared now? And Trump says, I don't take responsibility. March 4th, Trump tells Sean Hannity, a lot of people will have this coronavirus, and it's very mild. They will get better very rapidly. So we have hundreds of thousands of people that get better just by, sitting around, even going to work. Some of them go to work, but they get better. It's not that severe. The next day, he apologized and said, no, I didn't mean for people to go to work if they were sick. He said that's fake news. Pence tells reporters the same day, we don't have enough tests today to meet what we anticipate will be the demand going forward. Again, 6 months in, we still don't have the test we need going in. We don't have the test for the antibodies working properly. That's particularly noticeable. And the other ones, we have less than good standard tests and testing equipment available throughout the country. People in Texas are currently waiting 7 to 14 days for their virus test to come back. And in some cases, we need to be testing every few weeks on some people. March 6th, during a visit to the CDC, Trump, wearing a Keep America Great hat, says anybody that needs a test gets a test. I can't even get a test. And I'm a teacher and I'm approaching 60s. And the tests are beautiful, he says. Trump also says he would like to keep infected people on the Grand Princess cruise ship off the California coast so the official case count does not rise. I like the numbers being where they are. I don't need to have the numbers double because one ship, that wasn't our fault. South Korea's central bank says it will start quarantining banknotes. Some will be burned. What are we doing? We're creating money, I think. Trump spends the weekend golfing at Trump International on March 8th. March 9th, Trump tweets, so last year 37,000 Americans died from the common flu. It averages between 27,000 and 70,000 each year. Nothing is shut down. Life and the economy go on. At this moment, there are 546 confirmed cases with 22 deaths. Think about that. That was the very day Italy began a nationwide lockdown and sent the rest of the world into shock. Denial won't get us a better country, people. We need to demand a better country now, whether it's in policing or healthcare. Anyway, March 10th, when asked about the economic impact of the coronavirus, Trump says, we're prepared and we're doing a great job with it. March 10th. We're prepared and we're doing a great job with it. And it will go away. Just stay calm. It will go away. It sounds like a huckster at a carnival. March 11th. The WHO declares the coronavirus a pandemic. The NBA suspends its season. Tom Hanks announces he has COVID-19. In an Oval Office address, Trump announces that he will suspend all travel and trade with Europe, except the United Kingdom, for 30 days. Why the United Kingdom? He corrects himself with a tweet saying that the ban applies to people, not goods. The ban does not apply to U.S. citizens, of course, and they keep coming in. March 12th, Trump claims that travelers to the United States are being systematically tested. They are not. They still are not. The House Oversight Committee later reports that during this time, travelers from Italy and South Korea were not screened as they entered the country. Frankly, the testing has been very smooth, Trump claims. If you go to the right agency, if you go to the right area, you get the test. The quality of the test has been bad, and because they've had an FDA competition, free for all, where the FDA said, you guys make your own test. We don't know the quality of most of the tests right now. There's not even a good ranking scale set up by the FDA itself. March 13th, Trump declares a national emergency. Two very big words, national emergency. It was good, but we're still in a national emergency. What's he doing? At a press conference in the Rose Garden, he is asked if he takes responsibility for testing delays. Yeah, no, I don't take responsibility at all, he says. When a reporter asked why he disbanded the White House Pandemic Office in 2018, 2 years earlier, Trump snaps, I just think it's a nasty question, and when you say me, I didn't do it. Me? No responsibility, right? March 15th. At a daily briefing, Trump says, this is a very contagious virus. It's incredible, but it's something that we have tremendous control over. He tweets, the individual governors of the states and local officials must step up their efforts on drive-up testing and testing sites, working in conjunction with the CDC and the federal government. March 16th, the Dow Jones Industrial Average drops 3,000 points. Its biggest drop in history, breaking a record set 4 days earlier. Trump announces new social distancing recommendations. Epidemiologists later estimate that tens of thousands of lives could have been saved if such guidelines were implemented 1 week earlier. Tens of thousands of lives if 1 week earlier guidelines had been out. Asked how he would rate his response to the crisis, Trump says, I'd rate it a 10. I think we've done a great job. King Trump. March 17, Trump says, I felt it was a pandemic long before it was called a pandemic. I've always viewed it as very serious. He doesn't even call it pandemic now, I think. He stopped doing it. March 18th, Trump tweets, I always treated the Chinese virus very seriously and have done a great job from the beginning. That's March 18th. It's not racist at all to call it a Chinese virus. In a viral video, a spring breaker in Florida declares, if I get corona, I get corona. At the end of the day, I'm not going to let it stop me from partying. March 19th, California Governor Gavin Newsom issues the first statewide stay-at-home order. Medical workers publicize shortages of personal protection equipment with the hashtag GetMePPE. Trump says governors, not the federal government, should be buying equipment. And this has been the problem all along. The rest of the world is suffering because of this. We are suffering because of this. You know, we're not a shipping clerk, he says. What are you? Trump has, since he came to office, the United States has been one big kick to his wallet. And he doesn't want to do some work. Trump incorrectly suggests the FDA has approved the anti-malarial drug hydroxychloroquine as a COVID-19 treatment. He has some investments in that company. If things don't go as planned, it's not going to kill anybody, he says. Let's get this straight. March 20th, Italy's officials' death toll tops all of China's. March 21, Trump tweets hydroxychloroquine azithromycin take and together have a real chance to be one of the biggest game changers in the history of medicine. So now Trump, the liar in chief, has become the doctor in chief, huh? Don't believe the doctor. March 23, an Arizona man dies after intentionally ingesting chloroquine phosphate, a fish tank cleaner. March 24, at a Fox News virtual town hall, Trump says, "I would love to have the country opened up and just raring to go by Easter." As cases surge in New York, Governor Cuomo says that the White House isn't sending enough equipment. "What am I doing with 400 ventilators when I need 30,000, he asked. March 26, the United States has more reported coronavirus cases than any other country already. It didn't take long to jump to the head of the world, huh? Trump tells Hannity, "We've now established great testing. We've tested now more than anybody. The U.S. testing rate per capita still lags behind several countries, many countries now." At a press briefing, Trump says this was something that nobody has ever done and could think would happen to this country. No. I just read to you at the start of this piece how in 2017, Obama administration wanted you prepared for it, and Trump decided to close down the whole agency preparing for this in 2018. I want to ask you, is this the hardest working president in history? That's what Trump claims to himself. I could read more about this. But meantime, I would say, let's just look at the heroes. Heroes, let's listen to these guys. Let's say they're the federal government and give them the responsibility to do everything. They should have declared a national emergency and got the testing in order from day one back in at least March, if not February. Trump has said when somebody is the president, the authority is total. So this failed state of affairs of life and death in the United States, whereby a virus has now been shown to be much more than a lung illness, but it's more like a cardiovascular one. We and almost nobody in the world were prepared for a virus like that. So this should be comparable to fighting World War II, and this should be comparable to the space race. We need to get on it for the long term as well as the short term, and stop playing around. If Trump wanted to win the election, he would do that, but he doesn't. He apparently wants to take as many people down with him as he can, and that's pretty sad. I've been reading to you from Plagued, the cover story from Mother Jones magazine this week, and I want you to know that the failed state is the United States when it comes to health care for all and coronavirus response. We need to do things like have health care for all. We need to invest in testing. We need